So if I had to just sum it up into 2 words, I would say it was beautiful and painful.
Hi, my name is Sunny, and I am an apparel designer here at Huckberry.
And I'm Tyde, I'm on the footwear team, and we're here to talk about our experience running the Cirque Series race in Utah. So the Cirque Series is a series of races all around the world. We have some in Alaska, we have a bunch in the US, there's even one in Switzerland. Julian Carr was the founder of the race. He wanted to bring awareness to mountain running. We had the opportunity to run in Utah in a little ski town called Alta.
The run in Alta starts at 8,500 feet in elevation, and you sprint up to about 2,000 feet plus, and then you bomb all the way down to about 8,500 feet again.
I grew up running. For me, running has just been a lifetime thing. You've probably seen my previous gear lab about my gear and how I just geek out about trail shoes.
I just tagged along. It was fun. I usually grew up playing sports, ran just to stay fit, but never really pushed the whole endurance game. It's really been fun to learn about running a little bit more. It really is a craft the more you dig into it. It's great to just enter a whole new challenge.
Yeah, and big call out here, this was Sunny's first trail race. So that's a very, very, very hard trail race for your first time. And he's still running, he's still into it. So he definitely killed it.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. I've never done a trail race at elevation. So for me, it was a little bit of some nervous kind of anxiety, which kind of turned into excitement. And for me, it was just, hey, get out there, have fun. Don't worry about, the time or the placement. Like, this is just a completely new discovery. Mountain racing, it's a whole new game.
It is also a growing sport. It was great to see a lot of other people who seem to be pretty new in this also participate, but do it with all smiles. It's a good feeling of butterflies. I had a little bit of that, and it was just really rad to be a part of that whole thing.
I think we had about 5 weeks to actually train.
Yeah, we essentially trained for the race we never ran.
There would be no way to get any elevation exposure prior to the race.
Austin's 400 feet elevation. We were racing at 8,500 feet.
Essentially, it broke down to finding the biggest hole we could find and running repeats on that until we couldn't do it anymore.
And you were running it, I'm like, is it gonna be this bad? I don't know.
And I'm like, it's gonna be worse.
I'm like, great.
We stayed at the Gold Miner's Daughter's Lodge. That is essentially the starting point of the race. So it was really, really convenient for us. And I have to say, it was beautiful. Super, super green. Everything was like wildflowers. Everything was, flowing waterfalls. I mean, really, really beautiful.
Yeah, the smell was amazing. The green was just beyond high definition. It was really, really magical. You kind of go there, you're like, damn, we're gonna be running this? Like, yeah, it was like the calm before the storm. Like, this is gonna wreck us tomorrow. Enjoy the scene right now. It's really cool to see ski resorts in the summertime because you don't realize like, oh, this is just nature at its best. And we did a shakeout run where we went out there and just just a little jog, and our hearts are already elevating. Our watches are going off like, oh my God. I think our VO2 max ratings were already dropping before we we're hitting the first mile. So we realized, okay, yeah, we're gonna suffer tomorrow. It was really, really exciting. Everybody was in such high spirits. They are diehard runners. And so it was really contagious to kind of be around that energy as well.
For those of you who don't know Anya, it's kind of been known as like the fastest growing running brand. Essentially, it started off as just shoes that were really just engineered for Ironmen. I had a few people who were trying them on. They kind of gained popularity because these people were like running in ons and actually winning them. They really expanded the product line, not just for triathletes, but really for an everyday runner, the everyday athlete in general. You see them a lot now for people who just care about comfort. Although this was a brand that started very niche, it's now becoming a lot more popular and a lot more appealing to the masses.
Their design is incredible. As an apparel designer, I really appreciate how they approach their design. There's a certain type of aesthetic that really comes with it. I think they really pride themselves as the Swiss engineering of apparel, and you can really see it in their clothes. It's designed by runners for runners.
We want to actually show you the product. To be honest, it was my first time running in On running shoes. So for me, it was like an exposure to the brand. From the bottom up, my kit had the Cloud Ultra 2, I had the On active running socks, I had the Ultra shorts, the Ultra tee, I had their lightweight cap, and I had their Ultra jacket.
So I had the performance tee, Tyde had the Ultra tee. A little bit different, but still very similar materials. For the running gear, extremely lightweight. The whole point of it is like everything is very functional, even though it's very, very small. And that's the whole point of it, is that you want to feel as if nothing's on you, and it's extremely stretchy, extremely mobile, extremely quick dry, extremely breathable, and that's what this whole kit was all about. And what's great about these shorts is that they're lined with all this mesh pocketing, really clever design, and then the middle section of like the waist kind of cinches with this little shock cord, and that's a really nice way to just kind of tighten things up without being too intrusive.
The shoes. This is the Cloud Ultra 2. We were lucky enough to get them a little bit before the race. So the first impression was that they were very light. And so it's specifically meant for, long distance trails. It's great for transitioning to road as well. This held up really well. You have your classic Cloud Tech here and on. So you have their traditional holes here in the sole. You can see through them. It makes them very lightweight and very flexible. As far as the upper goes, you have kind of like this 2 layers going on. So you have this mesh and then underneath you have another layer. So it really provides a lot of structure, but a lot of breathability. And then in certain areas, you have some zonal heat overlays. A lot of these have different textures. You see the toe box is smooth. Some of the mudguard areas are a little bit more textured. And then when you see the lacing, this is one of my favorite features. They have a little lace lock loop. So this collar almost acts like a gaiter when you're running. So a gaiter is, basically anything that keeps the rocks out. You might see people wearing them on hikes, out in the trails. They essentially create a shroud so rocks and dirt don't get into the inside of your shoe. Great shoe, super lightweight, super comfortable, and built for the trail.
The way that Tyde broke it down, it all kind of makes sense. It's like, as a runner, why it felt so good. We ran a lot in pavement, we ran a lot in trails out in Austin, and then when we were out in the actual trail in Alta, the terrain would change like every mile or so. When you're going 2,000 feet plus straight down with a lot of sharp rocks, when you actually literally have to use your hands to kind of hold yourself up, these guys actually really held up. And I was so impressed, because you would literally see people falling and slipping, and these guys grip down the moment you're planting your feet, because that is an absolute skill that all trail runners need to know. And I was like, man, mad respect for these shoes.
If I know I'm gonna be running for over, 10 miles or over an hour, I typically like to bring, nutrition with me. In this case, it was under 10 miles. Definitely know like what you need as an individual. If you're someone who needs a lot more water, a lot more gels, definitely pack that with you. We're lucky enough that there is about 2 aid stations on this route. We're pretty comfortable with not taking any water with us or any snacks. The race did take a little bit longer than an hour, but I was okay with that because there's aid stations. Just know yourself. If you're not sure, definitely prepare, definitely ask around. There's always blogs and forums, but that's kind of how we know how we train. Again, we're training in over 100-degree weather, running more miles than 7 miles per week. And so for us, we kind of just knew that like water wasn't going to be an issue for us, but hydration was still key.
The whole goal of it was to start slow. There was one runner who was actually a coach, who was part of the whole on-running team. He was just saying, take it slower, because if you start burning lactic acid early and you slow down to a walk, you won't be able to recover from it. So that really burned in my head early on. Especially you're gonna be really nervous, and everybody's really nervous, and so everybody tends to run a little bit too fast in the beginning, and so I didn't want to really risk it. And so I took it nice and slow, and it was like a slow ramp that increased to a big ramp, and so that was pretty intense. But all I could do is just, one step in front of the other, just keep going and going. And of course, this guy broke out in front of me pretty soon, but because we had the beautiful green outfits, I could keep my eye on him to know where I was relative to the pack.
As far as my race day prep, it's pretty simple. I actually stay, in my pajamas. I'm like comfortable up until about an hour out before the race. So I'm just relaxed, I'm chilling. I'm not trying to do anything crazy, exertive. So when I wake up, big glass of water, electrolytes. About an hour out, I'll change into the race kit. Just doing a quick shakeout, quick warm up.
For me, it was really simple. Same thing, wake up, had like a banana, get a little sip on a couple of Powerades here and there. And then the ramp up was pretty quick though. You're kind of chilling, you're hanging out. You're trying to get ready, you throw on the stuff, your mind, you just automatically start feeling that energy. You start kind of getting excited for the race because all these things start playing in. We all end up lining up. It wasn't anything crazy like, oh my God, the shots are fired, everyone needs to run. It was like, all right, group 1, go. It was just really fun to kind of have that. It wasn't like a crazy pressure, it was just really casual.
As soon as the race starts, we're going uphill. It's primarily single track trails, lots of gravel, lots of dirt, weaving in and out between that and some fire roads. The main shift really as you're climbing is when you get closer to the peak, you start seeing some pretty big elevation gains, and then you see this whole area where you're actually scrambling. So you're essentially rock climbing over, big boulders. You're also trying not to push the person off in front of you. As soon as you hit the peak, you're descending. And that descent is insane because it's all single track. There's people trying to get around you. There's people falling and sliding, but it's essentially a single track downhill sprint. And you have people behind you, you have people in front of you. You're trying to keep up with the people in front of you while not letting the people behind you, run you over. And so it's a bit of a, balance between keeping up, but also not eating shit.
And it just felt so incredible. I felt so alive. I mean, the weather was great, the air was crisp. Everyone's exhausted, everyone's breathing so heavy, but yet cheering each other on. That was really fun.
Growing up, I had a coach who would say, just don't want you to walk when you race. But as you're running and as you get bottlenecked, it basically got to the point of just power hiking. And especially when you get to really, really sketchy parts of the race, you're not gonna be able to run this part, power hike, and you're fine.
Those hills that we did here are nothing compared to like what we experienced. And so just kind of having that feeling, trying to understand what that was just really interesting to kind of get used to. That was just the hardest thing. And to Ty's point, just being able to know like, oh man, I have to walk this thing. This is weird. Like, why do I have to do that? It's like, okay, this is just how it's done. That's the strategy.
Yep. I think the favorite moment was just the ending, just getting it done. As a runner, I'm kind of known as a good kicker, and so at the end, I always kind of have some energy to just burn, and I'm just sprinting towards the end. So that's kind of where I shine in races. But overall, I think the experience of like, hey, you finished is just the most relieving, reassuring thing. Whether it's trail running a mountain race, whether it's doing something different, do hard shit, get out of your comfort zone, and I promise you won't regret it.
And to be able to finish without having any idea what to expect, it was definitely a really good feat. And I felt the highs of that. So I still feel the highs of that, knowing that, hey, we went there, we ran that thing. Even seeing all the kits out here laid out, it just brings back all those memories, like scrambling on that rock, seeing Tyde in front of me, trying to chase him, but I couldn't. I had literally had a runner's high. I've never really felt a runner's high in like ever. I was like, man, this is what it feels like? How do I chase that a little bit more? And then I had the itch, like I want to sign up for another one, or oh my God, how much further can I push myself? And so doing this race was cool because it definitely unlocked a lot of the idea of what is my potential with all the stuff we talked about today about the craft of running, your nutrition, your routine. Those are the small things that really add up over time that only get you better and better and better. And it didn't matter if we finished first or last. The fact that we did it, it's priceless, for real. My whole approach to running has really changed when I learned more about the Zone 2 running. I mean, you guys can look it up. It's called base running, Zone 2 running, especially with the watches that, both Ty and I have. You actually keep your heart rate at a decent level and knowing that, hey, you can actually maintain that pace. Don't go over a certain threshold based on your body size, your age. You can actually get yourself and raise that base a little bit more and more over time. When I started learning that, I was like, wow, I can actually go on longer runs, feel better the next day, and continue to push my fitness a little bit further along without stressing it overly too much.
For me, having an activity tracker was huge. So I have my Garmin Fenix 6, knowing how much elevation I'm gaining or losing as I'm running, how far I'm going, what my splits are. That just helped me know how I'm performing.
Running is a lifelong craft. And if you're able to continue down that path, it's a tool that's gonna pay dividends in the long run.
I would say my advice would be just do hard shit. Michael Easter said it really, really well in his book, The Comfort Crisis. Do hard shit. You don't really know what is gonna happen, but you unlock things. I can speak for the both of us and say, we got out of our comfort zone. That was our recap of the Cirque Series race in Alta. Thank you again to On for sending us out there. It was amazing to run your product and actually represent the brand.
To wrap it up, if you guys have any questions or comments, please drop them below. Definitely smash that like button if you haven't yet. Really appreciate it. And let us know, what race should we run next? Any other ultra running races that you guys think that would be hot to check out? Drop it in the comments. Thank you so much. See you out there in unison. 1, 2, 3.
See you out there.